Hello and welcome back to our podcast on Wealth Magic. This is Mars, and once again, I am joined today by our very own Pixie Dust. Hey, Pixie Dust.
Hey guys, happy to
And
be here.
Jasmine.
Hello.
And today we actually have a special guest. I want everyone to say hello to Frater Xanatos. Hey, Frater.
Hi there. Pleased to meet you guys.
Yes,
Thanks so
so
much
happy to
for
have you on here.
thanks so
Yes.
much for taking the time.
Awesome.
Well, before we get started, folks, I want to do a quick recap. Wealth Magic is a very powerful grimoire developed by Damon Brand and his colleagues over at the Gallery of Magic. The goal of the book is to take the occultists through a journey of 7 rituals over a course of 6 months to enable a life of unlimited wealth. The first ritual we've discussed in the past was an alchemical rite, and it was designed to remove the blockages that exist within the occultists, to free their mind and give them the ability to be, susceptible to the conditions of wealth. The second ritual forms a pact with 3 powerful angels that render the occultist omnipotent and sets the tone for the mysteries ahead. The third ritual puts the first 2 to the test by facilitating an environment that is conducive to allowing money to flow into you and through you.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth ritual is with the Archangel Raziel, and we discussed how this ritual provides the intuition and the awareness needed to perceive the forces outside of your control, to better analyze opportunities that are in harmony with what you are commanding to the universe be manifested. Powerful ritual. The fifth ritual is all about stimulating change and removing blockages by invoking powerful alchemical spirits to elevate your ability to operate successfully in the world. And now today, folks, we're discussing the 6th working. So the 6th working, first of all, I think it's very interesting that Damon selected this spirit for this book. Aniquel is a spirit most well known in the occult community for his influence of the 6th and the 7th book of Moses. He's a powerful spirit who confers great wealth and honors. He's known for conferring great renown, respect, and wonder. And he also promotes good mental and physical health.
Yes, awesome. I can go ahead and start speaking a little bit about the introduction of this ritual and how, so it first starts off with charging the talisman. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is the other page. So we don't have to actually charge this talisman, I don't believe. Or yes, we do. Yeah. Charge talisman before you, which is not anything different than the other rituals so far. But what we do differently in the beginning of this one, which we haven't in the previous workings, is imagining that there's a circle of white light on the floor around you, as though you've drawn it with a piece of chalk, and maintaining this visualization throughout the entire ritual. So just a little bit of background or symbolism into just that white light. In the metaphysical world and the spiritual world, white light is usually associated with or represents the upper chakras, the crown chakra specifically, and also indicates usually a very high spiritual vibration. So in my perspective and in relation to wealth and honor, which is what this working is helping us with, or is about, this white light that we are visualizing and maintaining around us the whole time, I feel is putting us in that position of a higher vibration, opening up possibly the crown chakra in order to receive this sort of energetic open this energetic opening to be able to receive wealth and honor, the wealth and honor that we ask for from Aniquel. And yeah, and in addition to that, it's also symbolic of protection, because when we do call on these sort of spirits, it's always good to have protection regardless of the spirit, regardless of the magician. It just never hurts to, make sure nothing else is coming in that we don't want, that is possibly not too strong or too weak.
I agree. Definitely. I think the power of this spirit is sort of like is not well known, I guess, in in the community. I mean, let's take it back a little bit. This spirit is it has a lot of influence from the 6th and 7th book of Moses, right? And Yasmin, I'm pretty sure that you've looked at this sigil and you've determined that it's pretty much almost identical in terms of the 6th and 7th book of Moses, right?
Yes. So what they did here, to be honest, it's dramatically simplified what the gallery did, because in the original, you see the planetary forces, the planets, a lot more Hebrew names.
Yeah.
They
I want to.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to go to the point about that Pixie was making about the circle, and I think you're getting there. Yeah, but like,
yes.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what when you're saying simplified, right? Are you referring to the way the Gallery of Magic has constructed the sigil in comparison to the way that it was originally created in the 7th book of Moses?
Correct, both. They simplified both the process and the sigil, and again, this will be on screen, so it's more clear for people as it's now that we're doing this without the editing. And do you want me to jump in as far as how the ritual starts off? And then I think Frater also has the information, so
may I add something really quick? I just thought of this as you were talking about it, but it says in the working that they want us to keep the talisman in that circle with us, as we're doing the ritual. And so what I just kind of made the connection for, which I know that we're going to touch on, you guys are going to touch on later in the podcast, is how they did simplify that sigil in order for protection, or that talisman, in order, to not have the energy be so strong. And I feel like in addition to add to that sort of protection, is why we bring the talisman with us into that circle that we're visualizing, So that's kind of all I wanted to add about that. But
okay.
That's interesting, yeah.
So here is this thing. The original grimoire is an actual evocation of the spirit, where you prepare the circle, you're inside the circle, and with any demonic spirit, which this is,
Yep.
He's a great prince, that lets you know he's not an angel.
Yeah.
So the gallery, they want to make it easy. They're not trying to make you do a whole entire evocation. So they cut this part off, and they say, imagine the white light around you. And in the original, you have to draw the circle with blood of young white doves on parchment, physical, you have to prepare it. And then here we jump in with the prayers, and that's the preparation for the circle. And that is also the first incantation that you speak. Frater, do you want to jump in right here and explain that part of the ritual? Because I know you also have the book.
Yes.
So sorry, hold on. And I think I would love it if Frater actually talked about this miraculous circle that why did the Gallery of Magic decide that we had to imagine a circle?
So I surmised that the reason for creating the circle within your mind is because they've simplified the sigil by removing not only the planetary elements around it, but also other divine names. And by creating the circle, it creates for lack of a better definition, it creates a three-dimensional space for your mind to occupy safely, so that the spirit can exist outside of that space and be present with you. Now, when you do the physical circle, all magicians will state this, doing the circle allows you to occupy your physical three-dimensional space, and the spirit will fill the space outside of the circle. That's why when I watch a lot of these Hollywood movies and they're like, oh, we'll draw the circle and then we stand outside of it and summon the spirit. No, that's wrong. Because what happens is the entity comes with such force, it actually fills the entire space. And I had a very similar situation when I called on the one of the angels called Yehodiel. I did a very similar ritual, and wow, it was terrifying, terrifying, because literally my space went black. The whole room went black. And then I realized it had occupied the space around me, and here I am standing in this circle. So by drawing that circle, it allows you to contain your physical three-dimensional reality, allowing the entity from whatever reality it's coming in to fill that space around you. And because it comes with so much power, then that way it gives you that sense of, I would say, protection. So that way you're coherent and can understand what it's trying to communicate with you. And like I said earlier, because a lot of times people take for granted these circles, like just like our good friend here, Pixita said, that vibration, that circle, whether it's drawn physically on a parchment of paper at a specific hour on a new moon, as it says in the original grimoire, or the circle you're envisioning in your mind, it is a higher vibrational level. And unless you attune yourself to that higher vibrational level, by you creating that circle, then what happens is you have worlds collapsing in on themselves, and then you have more problems than you can handle. That's the best way I can explain that.
Very powerful spirit indeed. And Frater, just like touching on the Gallery of Magic sigil, and sort of like the history behind it. We understand that the influence came from the sixth and seventh book of Mogus. What did the Gallery of Magic sort of do without versus what was in the book, in the original 6th and 7th book of Moses? Because Jasmine mentioned that the Gallery of Magic really simplified the sigil. Can you elaborate a little bit on like what your analysis is on that?
Yes, my analysis on this is they simplified it because they weren't sure if certain individuals had a certain, I would say, mind state, right? Because you have to remember, they're creating the rituals for a broad range of users. And the question is, when you have a large group of individuals who are going to perform something, the experience is going to be different for everybody. This is personal gnosis, right? This is why we can't really quantify magic like you can quantify science. So what could be a pleasant experience for one practitioner can easily turn into a horrible experience for another practitioner. So I believe the approach by the Gallery of Magic is by simplifying the sigil, it was to try and level out the field. So that way, anybody who's utilizing it will have a very similar experience. So if it's unpleasant, it would be mild. If it's good, it would be comfortable. So that way, nobody walks away in such a way that they feel completely torn apart or that their mind is fractured trying to work the ritual. I also found it interesting, just like how they removed some of the sacred names of God, or how they changed some of the pronunciations of the spirits that go underneath the citation of Aniquial. So that's my best explanation and observation based on what I know so far.
It seems like when you get into the bit about so when you're imagining a circle and you have the sigil with you, the book tells you to say sort of an incantation that starts with Yahweh and ends with Kiri Lazar. And I'm being a bit vague here because I want to be cognizant of copyrights. And I respect the material from the Gallery of Magic. But it seems like there is a really big cultural mashup in these words. I mean, Yahweh is Hebrew. Theos, it seems like it's
Greek.
Almost Greek. Yeah.
Yes, you are correct. This is where I'm also equally confused, because when I go to the original 6th and 7th books of Moses and I'm looking at the names, I'm also equally puzzled because some of the names make sense. Like, for example, I have a brother, and I can say this because there's a lot of people with his name. My brother's name is Theophilus, and in Greek, theos means divine gift, right? Like Theophilus the philosopher. So theos is the first one. Then the next one is in the actual citation of Aniquial, the sacred names that the Gallery of Magic has broken down phonetically, actually Abba. And in Hebrew, it means more than one root. And then the next one is Zaba, which means in Hebrew, she who offers a sacrifice to God. But then all of a sudden it switches to another name, Agatosawi. And then I'm like, but wait a minute, what's that? I've never seen that name before. And again, it's not like you can just run this through Google, right? And then come up with a translation, because it doesn't work that way. So I've been silently digging for years, trying to figure out where these names are coming from, because they seem to be pulled from different, sometimes it feels like almost from different cultures. So this is where I'm almost sitting back saying, where was the original source of these names floating around for years? Like, I'm talking hundreds, maybe thousands of years. How did these names all suddenly get put together? And they seem to be names of spirits that answer to the prince. Aniquil.
Yes, I want to say I have seen this also with other ceremonial magic books, that they will, this one particular book that I'm thinking of has nothing to do with this, but they will also do this. It's a book about the planets, and they will repeatedly say, oh, intone this name, and then they mix Greek, Latin, Hebrew.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, in occultism in general, it's like even in the Kabbalah, we pull from all these different sources, kind of. So sometimes I don't know, maybe it's almost like saying a divine greeting and saying it in all the divine languages, but I'm not sure here. I'm just making.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely Frater makes a good point. In these kind of rituals, especially these older grimoires, my understanding is that the words themselves are actually utilized to give you sort of this authorization to work with the spirit, and almost as if you are more like it's not authorization, but it's more like you're acting on behalf of God type of thing. Correct. And so when you can hold the light in your hand like that, and work with a very powerful spirit, it almost seems like languages aren't really a barrier at all.
Yes, especially those are all magical languages, like
exactly.
Yeah.
But let's just take it back maybe to the actual, ritual, because we were at the circle, right? So the gallery says, imagine the white light. And it's funny to me because in the book they say, you do not create or draw the circle.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to say, we are trying to make it easy for you guys. No evocation, just imagine white light. In the actual book, there is, you draw the physical circle, and then there is a conjuration in Latin that sounds very, I want to say, Christian.
Yeah.
They're very dramatic. I don't know, maybe Frater, you want to read it, how it actually starts in the real grimoire?
Yeah, I can read it. And again, I'm just going based on what I learned years ago, but it starts off as ego in consecro, e benedico istum curriculum per nomino de astissimi, in eo scripta, usit mihi omnibus scutum protecto de fortissimi. Then all of a sudden it breaks into Hebrew, Elohim. Then back to Latin again, invisibilis, contra omnis maligno spiritus, corricum protestis in nomine, de Paris, de Filii, de Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Then it switches to English. And that is the actual pronunciation, or I should say the actual incantation for when you've created the physical circle. So it's funny how the Gallery of Magic skipped all of that. And they said, just visualize the circle. And I kind of get it, because visualizing the circle means you just tune your mind and spirit to a higher vibrational frequency, where you just have to visualize the spirit only, rather than actually doing the physical circle, reading the incantation, and then having to deal with the spirit physically as well, which may be way too much to handle.
Correct. It's like they made this ritual like, okay, let's make this from a proper ceremonial evocation into a quick ritual that you can just do, sit down in 15 minutes easy, you know.
Yes.
Chaos magic.
Exactly.
Yes, you got it.
Exactly. So, and then after this very dramatic, very, to me, Christian sounding incantation that they completely skip, there goes the words that, you know, Frater already read earlier. In the original, it says tetragrammaton, theos, iskritos, and so on. And the gallery changed that. They do not like the word tetragrammaton. This is just something I noticed.
Yeah.
Going back to all the grimoires, whenever the original says tetragrammaton, they will put another name of God. Anyways, but this is actually, I hope this is not too confusing, but there goes the actual words that the gallery then took. The first incantation, when they say the talisman of Aniquil should be inside the imagined circle with you, say the Yahweh, Theos. And again, in the original, it says tetragrammaton, Theos, so on. And then the original will make you recite Psalm 91. The gallery also completely skips that part.
Yes.
And then they write, take a moment to know that Aniquil has already been stirred. The talisman is within your circle and the magic has begun. The words you now speak are a way of getting Aniquil to listen to your desires. So and so on. Also, sorry, copyright. I'm not trying to break the rules here. So, you know, they explain a little bit what you're doing, and then now they come to the actual conjuration, because again, before this was just preparatory work. This was part of creating the circle, was part of creating the environment to call Aniquil. And now we go to the actual conjuration. And it's called in the actual grimoire the Citation of Aniquil.
Yes.
So yeah, you can continue, Frater.
Okay, so that's where it gets interesting, because the Gallery of Magic realizes the citation of Aniquil, they cannot skip it. They have to call on the names, the spirit. And in my opinion, I don't know why, for some strange reason, I always look at them as names of spirits that also answer to the prince. Because in order for a prince, or even in demonology, they talk about saying that when the dukes have to appear, you have to call on their legion, and they all have names. So you announce the names, the citation, right, of Aniquil by mentioning all the names. And the crazy part is, when I'm looking at the original incantation, the original citation for this seal, it mentions all the spirits capitalized as individual names. And then at the very end, you say Aniquil. So that's the crazy part. You actually quickly realize, okay, so I'm calling on names of spirits, but I can only understand some of them. Like we said earlier, it's a mishmash of different entities from different cultures, some from a bygone era. Some were probably maybe gods, and then they became demonized and were demons instead. Who knows? But the power behind it still isn't lost. And I find that it's amazing that when you vibrate the names, this is the interesting part, when you can actually get the intonation as close as you can physically feel. Because again, the Gallery of Magic basically tries to simplify the phonetics, because they themselves are just like us. They're not sure where some of these names are coming from. They do it as best as possible, because as long as your intent is behind the pronunciation, the intent will still produce real results. And this is where sometimes I say, you know what? It's good that the Gallery of Magic does that. As much as sometimes I'm a purist in a way and I kind of go, oh, this is a little sloppy. It does help, because the average person doesn't speak multiple languages of a bygone era. Most individuals may speak one, maybe two languages. So it's good that they made it comfortable for us to pronounce. Hopefully down the road, I'll probably get more time away from, because I have a young family. So if I have to do anything, I have to lock myself in a room. I would love to figure out where some of these names are coming from. And I've only deciphered maybe 2 or 3 of them, and I'm even not still sure about it.
Yes.
It's interesting because, oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to chime in one little thing, that in the original, and I feel this is more significant than we probably think, but Frater already explained really well, like if they did the whole thing, people would not be ready for it. And also, I don't think the gallery wants to be sued or have horrible stories of the crazy things that happen when you actually call a spirit into your actual space.
Yeah.
So here, but why I'm saying this is because in the actual book it says iniqual seal or character for coercion and obedience. Again, if you go back to, you know, books, I'm sure a lot of people here have worked with demons of magic. With demons, it's a lot of which this is also a demon. This is not an angelic entity. It's, you know, back in the day, back in the Middle Ages, they used this very forceful way of commanding these spirits, and it was a very hostile relationship. And people are moving away from that unless you are a very old school, traditional, high ceremonial magician. But again, this is not a nice relationship to have, and this is why people or magicians probably had a lot of horror stories and bad experiences, because you're trying to force this powerful entity and command them and force them into obedience, you know. So I also think that they left out a lot of the sigil, because I mean, I don't understand all this Hebrew. I don't know exactly what this all means, what they left out, but I will think maybe it was much more of a forceful energy, and they were trying to take that away, just to, you know, don't create this hostile environment that can create strong experiences and very negative experiences if, you know, the spirit feels forced into obedience. I mean, how does that sound? To me, that sounds terrible. That sounds like I'm thinking of like a dictator, authoritarian government. You know what I mean? When I hear a word like coercion and obedience, it's terrible.
Yeah. That's why I wanted. Oh, sorry, Mario. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's why I wanted to add too that, as ironic as this may sound, the reason the Catholic Church basically banned the book as quickly as possible is because this grimoire became very popular with a lot of evangelical ministers and pastors. Because if you think about it, a lot of these seals are about coercion and obedience, right? And what does a pastor or minister do? They want to enforce obedience to who? God, right? And it's funny because I have a friend who was a former priest, and he's like, he said this is also one of his favorite grimoires, which is ironic. What's a priest doing with a grimoire like this, right? So it kind of makes you chuckle, and you just say, wow, you know, people will do what they do best. So yeah, I apologize, Mario. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, totally. No, and that's great. It's interesting because, like, when we get to the point where we're talking about, so when we're past the circle and we're looking at some of the combination of words in different cultures, I'm a bit unclear. Is it that in the beginning, which part is the pact? So it says in the book, it says, "Aniqua can hear every word from the first, but by saying all these words, you are making a pact that you will speak, and Aniqua will listen to your request." So is Damon referring to the next set of phonetic words, or is he just referring to the words that you said previously?
He's referring to both. He's referring to the words you recite first, the previous, and the words you're going to say after.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting. So it would be good to know what that translates to.
And I feel the way they say pact, it's almost like a way of saying, okay, we'll just tell you subconsciously you're doing a pact, rather than reading the entire psalm, right? Because the whole idea of having Psalm 91 is to seal the pact, right? You're using one of the sacred prayers of God in order to acknowledge you're making an arrangement with his spirit. But because the Gallery of Magic skipped that, I can see why they said, okay, you're making a pact, just understand this is what you're doing. Again, kind of like a shortcut, but it works.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to make say something about pacts, because this is something. Remember ritual 2? This is the first ritual where I remember them saying you are making a pact with the angels of omnipotence, and I just think they mean it a little different when they mean pact. I mean, not to take away what you say, I agree with that. I'm just saying that the original meaning of a pact is a bit more serious. It actually means an actual contract, especially with demonic spirits. You usually sign a contract and you sign it in blood. We are clearly not doing that. I just wanted to say that. Yes. I just feel like when they say pact, it's also another reason is to put the magician in the mindset that this is serious magic. This is not just a random ritual. Like, you're doing this whole book,
Yeah.
so these whole workings of that will take you 5 to 6 months to complete, and this is serious. This is not some little game. This is serious magic. Take it serious and treat it as such, because this is where they took it from. But to me, I see the word pact, like, yes, I get it why they call it pact, but I'm also thinking of what a pact traditionally means, where you sign with blood, you know, and where you have to give offerings and give something in return, which they're not doing. I just wanted to say that because I feel like they're using these words, and a lot of people may not be aware that usually when you say pact, you know, you sign stuff in blood. You're signing a contract. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. It has a more serious tone to it. I do want to say too, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but it's interesting that they want us to do this ritual. I'm kind of jumping, I guess, a little bit to the end, but they want us to do this ritual for 11 days. And I think there might be another one in here that is 11 days too. I'm kind of taking this off what we were talking about, but you know, the in numerology, 11 is a master number, and it usually indicates a oneness within ourselves with the universe, you know, being part of the all, within that fullness in ourselves, and also is just keeps us open to like vast spiritual concepts, and as well as being aware of the presence of a greater power. So I just thought that was interesting, and just an interesting symbolic tidbit about the amount of days that we're doing this too. You know, 11 being a master number, and this being the ritual of wealth and honor. You know, and also, and there's the 11th hour, right, which is usually a suggestion of urgency. And this is like the second to last ritual also. So, you know, it's like we're not that it's an urgent one, but it's, I guess, powerful in what it's bringing to us. And I know for myself, it was, like I said, a very big transitional period. I experienced disruptions. I was actually had COVID at the time that I did this ritual earlier this year. And then a friend of mine who did it also said that he experienced more financial disruptions than in the second ritual. So, you know, not to scare anyone with that, you know, because when we're breaking our old molding of what we were manifesting before and stepping into one of wealth and attracting wealth, then there will be disruptions, right? Because that we need to shatter the old beliefs and everything, and be open to receiving the newness. So anyways, I just wanted to throw a little bit of that in there, because I feel like everything is important, you know, maybe not all important, but sorry, I got distracted. But the importance, like this subtle importances of like just the amount of days you're doing it and everything. So
yes, and also, you know, 11 is a very angelic number. So
yes,
usually,
true,
and
ironically,
there is a pattern in the book with 11, 22, 33, obviously master numbers and all. It's like, you know, 11 times 2 is 22, times 3 is 33. So
exactly.
And
interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting because the 11 is definitely a master number, and one of the things that like this ritual gives you, or what's on offer according to the beginning of the chapter is that this spirit is going to give you wealth, but it's also going to give you a good reputation as well, right? And when we look towards the end of the ritual, more specifically, the only part of the ritual that's actually in English when you're actually directly speaking towards the spirit, we have some very interesting things that are being said there. Jasmine, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so we went from the original conjuration that is in the original grimoire under the, under the sigil and the gallery copied that, and now you talk in English. I ask that you bestow upon me great wealth, etc. And that is important because, let's not forget our intent. It's easy to get lost in those words. And it feels very magical, but we don't actually understand what we are saying. Anyways, but then I bind this with the words. And interestingly, in the grimoire, the most high words of God, the binding of the spirits from Moses, Aaron, and Solomon. They're skipping a part again, but then it says apparatio or arapation. It almost instantaneous upon these mysterious words and procedure. As soon as they appear, however, address them and compel them into obedience with the following. I can't even pronounce that word. It's Latin. I don't know what this means, but then it says binding of Moses. So the closing, right before you say the license to depart, this is the binding of Moses from the original grimoire that starts with Sebayoth, Abato, Tetragrammaton. And again, like I said before, the gallery does not like to use Tetragrammaton for some weird reason. They exchange that to Adonai.
Yes.
And then,
I see that.
But the rest is identical. It's the binding of Moses. And it says in the instructions under, since the spirits will now appear quickly, bring your desires forward honestly, as if before your fellow man, without fear, for nothing can harm you. Much rather, all must serve you and yield obedience and serve you according to your wishes. So, they talk about petitioning, but that's basically what, what we already did before when we say, I ask that you bestow upon me wealth, etc. Then we do the binding of Moses from the original grimoire. And then it's a license to depart, basically. That's how we close the ritual.
As you came in peace, and you will go in peace, with the words, blah, 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 right?
Yes, and even the license to depart is also, it's from the original grimoire. And it says valedictio, or dismissal of the spirits. Since the spirits have now served you according to your wish, dismiss and discharge them as follows. Sebayoth, Theos. That's what they do, what Damon Brand does again. I don't want to copyright infringe again. It's like, as it came in peace, whatever. And then again, those words, those magical words, and they are from the actual grimoire. That's it. That's all I want to say about this.
Yeah, no, and that is amazing. That is amazing. Every day, every moment of my life, even in moments like this, I'm just so thankful and so appreciative, like to just to know, just to like, in the case of like right now, just to have more knowledge and more wisdom about these rituals, and it's an amazing journey, and it's just a privilege to be here with all of you, to continue to talk about this book and dissect it, and really get behind the reason why Damon Graham meticulously picked these spirits to accomplish this omnipotent wealth.
Yeah.
Before we close, I wanted to talk about this specific piece of the puzzle. So there's 7 rituals. This specific book comes, this specific chapter comes, directly, it comes in a everything's all sort of in a sequence, and this sort of comes, after the 5th working, but before the 6th working. Any reason, any thoughts on why the order, why this spirit is being called specifically at this time in the book? And maybe any thoughts on what would this spirit do? Like what is the practitioner or the petitioner, what should they be aware of when they expect to accept the influence of this spirit in their life?
I'll go ahead and touch on something really quick. Just what first came to mind is
Okay.
that I feel like, the last working is with Clowneck, right? So, and I feel like of all the rituals that we've done or of all the workings so far, Clowneck is probably the most intense, for lack of a better word. The most capable of change, I believe. Just independent of all the other rituals. And I feel like maybe Aniquel on the sixth working is almost like a stepping stone in order to prepare us for working with Clowneck in the final working. And I know that we have worked with a Duke before, and I don't believe Aniquel is the first prince, but maybe he is. But as far as just doing the rituals, and not to say that like the angels of omnipotence are not powerful, and that other entities in these workings are not powerful, but just for what purposes they serve, they perhaps need to be at that point in the book. And then with this one, it's almost like like a precursor of for the final one. I don't know. That was the thought that came into my head, because working with Aniquel I felt almost a stronger connection or a stronger experience or just more energetic experience than even the angels of omnipotence.
Definitely.
It was just different. Yeah. And then finally at the last one we have Clowneck. So, and that one I believe is the most powerful in my opinion.
And that's where, if you don't mind me adding to as well, I also, when I did the Wealth Magic, what I found most interesting was, I know everybody said that the sixth working with an equal was disruptive. For me, it was the polar opposite, because I remember making a journal and documenting my progress. I found with an equal, during those 11 days of doing that ritual, I had such an incredible flow of income. And I still remember to this day, at this time, I was just working a lowly truck driving job. I was struggling. And I went from working my minimum 25 hours a week to almost working 60 hours a week. And it continued for almost a month straight. And I was sitting there and I said to myself, perhaps what's happening is an equal is observing that I'm driving myself, I'm forcing myself every step of the way to make wealth, right? To create wealth. So what happened is, because I've made that pact, it's honoring the pact by saying, here you go, because you're working so hard, here's the reward. This is an idea of what it's going to be like in the future. Because then I realized quickly, I'm like, wow, that kind of makes sense. Because then when I got into the working with Clowneck, that's when things went backwards for me. Literally everything was falling apart. My truck broke down. Somebody cut off the power. The engine of my truck froze in the middle of the wintertime in Winnipeg. I had somebody who ended up trying to slash my tires. It was one thing after another when I was working with Clowneck. Clowneck really gave me disruption. But I found with an equal was more like, okay, here you go, hand on the table. You're doing your part of the deal. I'll honor you. So that's what I wanted to share.
I have an interesting story because, I feel that I didn't really get any results in the immediate process of doing the rituals, but I do have an interesting story that I feel really attributes to this ritual, at least to the powers of this ritual. And it basically involves this sort of this opportunity that I had once to sort of step up and lead there was some kind of backstory. There was a problem at my job, and essentially no one sort of knew how to solve the problem essentially. And I have a lot. So my kind of background is in software engineering. So basically, we had an engineering problem that I was kind of really the only one that was knowledgeable to solve it. And it's interesting because like I knew this particular problem very well because I had experienced it in a previous job. And by the way, being a software engineer today, is a direct reflection of the rituals of wealth magic itself. I completely picked up the skill of software engineering, studied online. The book gave me basically this, it just handed me the skill in my hand, and I just happened to be very interested in it. And it brought me, it's brought me ahead really, really far. But in any event, so I've kind of gone through all these different experiences to kind of know exactly what this problem was. And I miraculously was the only person that could solve it, to have a plan, to figure it out. And this kind of opened up an opportunity for me within the company that I work at, to be overlooked at by senior leaders. And so a lot of senior leaders, big managers were looking at me. They were very much interested in what I had to say. And it put me in a position that was very advantageous for my career. There is a flip side to this ritual too, though. And I would say that it wasn't maybe any disruption, but it's that, be prepared for the level of leadership that you actually, if you're not a leader, you need to learn how to be one. If you don't know how to lead, read a book. But if you're given an opportunity to lead, or at least if you're given an opportunity where others are going to look at you, you better know what you're talking about and sort of know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's going to backfire. And I think this is a very, this is a double-edged sword, this ritual. But in my case, it kind of worked out really well. And what I'm hoping is that at least with, the preceding rituals, what I'm hoping is that, I don't know, maybe it just kind of set me up to kind of set my life up to kind of go through those experiences in my past to eventually get me to where I am today. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Awesome.
I like what you said about it preparing you to be a leader. I think that's, in my experience, that's 100% true, and just during, in the times that I was doing Wealth Magic, even between the first round and the second round, I went from just a regular, employee position to a position of management. And in addition to, growing my YouTube and being more in the public eye and stuff, it's just that elevation. And that's part of the honor, I think, of this ritual, of this working too, is just creating that name for yourself, and building that strong foundation in which to be that leader, and however that manifests in each in each person's life.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, for me, when I did Wealth Magic, I've only done it once so far. I had a pretty bad time the entire book, and then it completely shifted about 2-3 weeks after finishing, but the whole book was actually a nightmare for me. So some rituals worse than others, but again, it's not the rituals, it's where you are in life and what the spirits can do for you at a certain point in time. And for some people, like you said, like Frater said, I was doing so well during ritual 6. It's like when your life is ready for certain results, kind of. And for me, everything had to happen after, and everything before had to get ripped out. So this is how it's happened to me. And, going back to why ritual 6 for Wealth and Honor, I totally agree that Clownic is the most powerful as far as blowing things up and just bringing in a lot of money and becoming this, person that really is building wealth, not just attracting money, actually building wealth for themselves. And I just think that, we start with raising our vibration to, frequency of abundance with the daily practice, and we start to attract money slowly. And then, we tell the angels of omnipotence, hey, we're serious. I want to change my life. I'm serious. And then they come in and start using this is how I kind of always picture that they kind of pulling the strings from above, you know, like way above, not as like direct as other spirits. And then, yes, we do more workings to attract money. And then we get to Raziel. That is next level. That's like, hey, open the gates. You know, let me really be able to learn and get on this other level of magic and in my life, and, you know, open stuff up for me. And then we go back to attracting money. And then maybe the thought is that by this time of ritual 6, that whatever you're doing in your life, that at this point you are building something for yourself, something you either going to get promoted or already have gotten promoted, or changed careers, or started a new business, or took your business to the next level. And at once, but no matter what these things are, you're going to have to build a reputation for yourself if you're going somewhere seriously. So it makes sense. And then Clonic comes in last as the final hammer, you know, after the buildup of all these rituals. And it's like, okay, you're ready. Now I'm gonna like blast the astral. What is it? I'm gonna blast open the vault, the astral vault, and pour all this money to your reality.
I never knew. I never knew what the definition of wealth was until I met Clonic. Jesus Christ. It completely elevated my perspective.
I agree. I can just say, like, I'm such a different person than I was years ago, and I have established such a mindset of wealth. And I had zero wealth before. When I started Wealth Magick, I only had debt. I didn't have any, you know, net worth or anything. That this to even build this whole mindset of wealth. Again, no matter where you are and what you're doing, if you're an employee or your own business, it doesn't matter, but you're really elevating who you are and building this, like, starting off to build actually a life of wealth, whatever that means to you, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, this book has changed my life. I mean, and it's not even done yet, you know. I still know I'm in sort of the process of receiving the results of the second round and possibly even the first, but just even in the, you know, the time that it's been, like, it's just a completely different situation, completely different perspective, mindset, new connections, you know, I mean, and here we are doing this podcast about it, and you know, all having been connected as strangers, you know, on the internet, and that's a beautiful thing in and of itself. I consider myself wealthy being able to sit here and do this with you guys. You know, and that's in order to talk about this and share this wealth. So
likewise.
Yes. Appreciate you guys.
And I was going to also add too as well, just like you, Pixie Dust, and all of you, I'm also still feeling the effects of Wealth Magick to this very day. I mean, I look at my meteoric rise within Amazon and the position I'm in right now, where I'm the senior learning coordinator of development and training. I'm now doing compliance from multiple departments. It's been incredible at what the Wealth Magick has done. Yeah, it's fun to make fun of the Gallery of Magic's, you know, sleight of hand with some of the rituals, but when you take the time to appreciate the simplicity of genius in a way that the rituals have been compiled together, it's almost like they save you a lifetime of dedication and practice. Like somebody walks up to you and says, you know what? I see that you're dragging your feet. Let me put some wheels in a cart, and there you go. And it's something I'm very grateful for. That's why and don't get me wrong, when I meet individuals who are doing Wealth Magick 4 or 5 times in a row, I'm like, man, stop. Take the time to appreciate what you just did.
Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, stop and smell the roses, because those changes that the Wealth Magick initiates happen sometimes years down the road. And in my case, I watched it happen successively within a 3-year window. And I can attribute a lot of the effects of where I'm even sitting right now as one of the most important individuals within my site in Amazon. And I'm like, wow, I'm like the center of information. Everybody comes to me for this. Everybody looks to me for leadership. When I step onto the floor and my area managers are completely flustered, they're like, Gamel, how do you do this? And I'm like, wow, there's a power behind it. And I reached out, it tapped me, and it made me aware of the responsibility of that power. So yeah, I'm very
Absolutely.
grateful.
Yes, me
That's
too.
awesome.
Same thing.
I had chills right now as everyone was speaking too. So that just, I don't know, shows some confirmation or some importance behind it as well. So
Usually
um,
that means, when I get these chills, it means, the spirits are around. They're listening to us. They know we're
yeah,
doing this.
they're
And
happy
they
we're
like
doing
it.
it.
They like it.
Yeah,
They're paying
exactly.
attention,
Yep.
They probably like being talked about. Yeah.
for
I
sure.
love when that happens.
Yeah, right.
I think we've gotten uh, uh, a wealth of information from this time with you guys. This is amazing stuff that we can get out there to everyone, and
Mhm.
just to be able to just just talk, philosophize about it. Excuse me, philosophize. Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Okay.
Philosophize.
Yeah. Is amazing. So I want to thank everyone here for taking the time today to meet. We all got really busy schedules. Thank you so much for taking the time to actually. I know you have a family, and you're just taking the time to like get on this call and to spread
Yeah.
the wisdom and talk about these things that interest us, and that bring us together.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Same
you.
to you, Pixie, for putting this together.
Yeah, of course.
And Jasmine is always the person that we go to for all of that information that we need.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, today,
Thank you, Jasmine.
today I had extra help. A lot of credit to Frater because he knows I was blowing up his phone. I was like, where's this from again?
Yeah. Yes, it was
Well,
great to have you here, Frater. To add to our knowledge and be able to share this information, and deliver it in such a clear, understandable way, so
Thank you, guys.
very much
This means
appreciated.
that means a lot to me, and I hope I didn't speak out of turn too much because I got a little excited.
No,
So, I just
I
want to
think we
say,
all did.
my only parting words I have, and I've come to appreciate the rites of magic very deeply, as I've already embarked on a very spiritual ceremonial path, which I'm working on per se. And I had a little bit of a delay because I had a personal illness. But one thing I realized is the more books in magic I acquire, the more I'm starting to realize I don't need any of them. It's ironic. I mean, even when I look at this grimoire, the 6th and 7th book of Moses alone, it has so much in it.
I
And the
know.
weight, the power of this book alone is incredible. It saddens me because I know, as like one of my colleagues said, there are a lot of individuals in the quote unquote faith communities that are abusing this power. No word of a lie. They are coercing individuals to follow them down a certain path. And the crazy part is, even though these individuals are acting in a very unbecoming manner, they're not also aware of the fact that it's a double-edged sword. It swings both ways. As everybody, you hear the occasional term, throwing yourself on the sword of Damocles, right? You believe you've won the battle, but you have to throw yourself on the sword to win it. And it comes at a steep cost. So we have to treat these grimoires, these books of knowledge, with great respect, and realize that when we have imbued ourselves with that power, to turn around and lift those around us, even if they cannot be lifted, we can understand and appreciate where they're sitting in their lifetime, and at least take that energy we have and spread it to the people that matter. That's the one thing we should be doing with this lifetime as best as we can.
Amen.
Yes, agreed. Awesome.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
guys.
very much. Thank you very much, everyone. And those of you who are tuning in, thank you. And we are off to the 7th working. And until then,
yes.
take care.
All right.
Take
Take care,
care,
guys.
Bye-bye.
Light in
Bye.
it, Nishi.